Hey YouTube, it's Cash. So I covered part of this patch in an earlier episode. I'll put a link to that. I'm going to go through the rest of this patch right now so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm up to. So this, again, to review, everything starts with this Korg drum machine, and that's being clocked into this serial data generator. And by the way, this is a little bit of a lesser version of my test equipment wall, because you notice that there's no word generators. What I have is for sequencing is basically the serial data generator, this pattern generator, this data sequence generator, and this data pulse generator up there. This clock is going straight through here, and then it's being broken out through here. One thing I learned is kind of like a ghost in the machine in this whole process was this tone burst generator was actually feeding back into this breakout that I made for splitting clock signals or data signals, and it was doing something kind of crazy. Now, to fix that problem, because what it was doing is it was screwing up all of my percussion, which I wanted to be clean sounding, I actually just took the clock out of here to isolate that going into the tone burst generator instead of making it part of this, because it was actually like, I think maybe because this is an older piece of equipment, it doesn't have like a grounded plug, and maybe that's part of the reason, but I'm not 100% sure. In retrospect, what I should have done is I should have took the clock out of here and actually put it into there and left this where it was, because it's actually doing some very interesting things. So I'm going to actually use that later in a later video, because it didn't seem to like break anything. So I think I might do that, because it was really doing some crazy things, especially with the boxcar averager. The clock eventually gets to this data pulse data generator, and that will that is it being fed into something that I actually talked about on Instagram, which was I think I called it my voltage buffer phase inverter test jar or something like that. I can't put a link in the video directly, but I'll put a link down below for that so you can check that out. It's kind of a long story of what that actually is, but I actually fed that into there, and the reason being is because I was having trouble with this particular device for some reason, and I think it could be part of its design, is that it would put the line of data, and then if it would met some sort of resistance, so if I use it as like a, voltage into something, it would only play one line and then stop. And maybe that's part of the way it works. I don't know if it's broken, but anyway, the test jar was a way to kind of get around that. So that actually goes into there. And then from the test jar, it goes into this filter, or interstellar orbiter by Earthquaker Devices. Split the signal out of that, and I put one half of that into this Echo Rec by Catalan Bread, which is a really cool delay pedal, and I also took the other half of that and put that through this Kilobyte by Caroline Guitar Company, and I actually play with this Havoc button. You'll hear that, or you've heard that, so doing this video afterward, and that actually made some really cool percussion effects between those two. And then there's more of like a mid-rangey one, which I took the data output out of the data sequence generator, and I put that in this BK Precision function generator, and that's what's creating that. I took the out of that and put that into this Bruin Care filter, and then that's being fed into the board. While I'm up here, this general radio filter I'm using as a main effect in and out on the board, which I'm using mostly for bass and kick. The kick drum is coming out of this pattern generator. So I have a data output going into this function generator here, which you heard later. It's kind of like basically sort of like siren sound that I could bring in towards the end to kind of create some variety. Another thing that I did here was I have this PMC-100 that I use. I made a tape, which I did 2 episodes on, the creation of this tape, and that's being played. And I also did some it's a monophonic FM sounds that I played. It went into the DAW, and I did some effects in the DAW. I had too much stuff kind of going on here to kind of do some extra pedals. Afterward, I thought maybe I could put a pedal on the floor and play it that way, but you wouldn't see it anyway. Stereo out's coming out of here. One half of that stereo output is going into this Coma electronic pedal. That's being clocked as well by the Korg drum machine. And the other half of that is going into this Twin Stags by Dwarf Craft. One half of that tremolo is being clocked also by this pedal, and the other one I kind of left loose to kind of create some variety. Less volume coming out of this pedal versus the Coma. So I actually ran that into this pickup booster by Seymour Duncan. You can't really see it too well, but yeah, there it is. To kind of strengthen that half of the signal before it goes into the DAW. I wanted to also use the actual drum machine as well. So I took the output on that, actually split the stereo, put one half of that output through this general radio filter, and I took the other half and I just put it directly into this Natty, fed both into one side of this little mixer here, and then I mixed them together. The one other thing too, and I played this in the first episode of this series, which was this two-tone generator, more of a bass pulse because it's being fed into this tone burst generator right here, and it's creating this really cool like pulsy bass part. But I already had enough bass going on here, so I needed to kind of create some variety. I needed that to occupy a different tonal space. So what I did is I actually fed that into this MXR submachine pedal. It's kind of like an octave fuzz with like a bass boost. It's one of my favorite pedals. And I concentrated on the higher octave, and then I put that into this Beatronic Swarm pedal, which it did some really amazing things. I was really surprised actually at the result. Which you probably heard what that is. You know it when you hear it. One other thing I wanted to mention too, another ghost in the machine that I discovered, which I don't quite even know or understand why it's still happening, and maybe somebody that's into this stuff can kind of explain it to me. But the kick drum, like as I'm turning on some certain things, again, maybe as part of just using these, I took this NIM plug-in and another one up there, and I mentioned this before in the first video, as I converted them so I can make it all open, or I can take one signal and split it, and then use this dial to kind of like switch in between the signals. Is I noticed when I turn on certain devices, and you can hear it, the kick drum kind of like went rogue and then kind of like did some weird things, and I don't know why that is, but it ended up like fixing itself too, kind of like that sort of thing when you have like you turn on a bunch of metronomes and they're all running kind of like there's like a video where they all run, you put them on like a like a board, with this sitting on like a couple Coke cans or something like that, and they're all like running at different times, but then they end up syncing to each other. It kind of like reminded me of that for some reason. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll be more than happy to try and answer them. And thanks for watching.